Julie. What's up, Julie?
Hi, Dr. John.
What's up?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it. What's happening?
So I have a situation with my husband and I. We've been married 15 years, and about 2.5 years ago, he quit drinking. He was a heavy, heavy drinker. But ever since then, it's like we have nothing in common. You know, we don't do anything together. He doesn't come on like family vacations and things like that with us anymore, with the kids. And I'm kind of at a point where, like, we're there together, but I'm lonely and I'm frustrated and I'm having a hard time seeing a future like this together with him. So I'm not really sure how to move forward with our marriage and relationship.
Mm. What has he said to you when you tell him that? Hey, I'm lonely and I miss you.
Well, we recently had our 15th anniversary in February. It's on Valentine's Day, actually.
Gross. Gross.
I know. He picked it. I didn't. But like, we were like, okay, let's take a trip. Like, let's go do something. And we got to the point, like, we couldn't agree on something that both of us would enjoy. So we ended up not doing anything. You know, and he's a homebody, you know, he likes to stay home. He watches a ton of TV. I like to go out to eat. I like to go to hotels and things like that. So we're really having a hard time relating to each other and finding like a commonality anymore. So when he was drinking, you know, we would go to bars or, you know, let's go try this place or let's go to a winery and, you know, just kind of test things out. Like, it was fun, you know, but now he doesn't want anything to do with that stuff, which is totally understandable. He can't be around the alcohol anymore. And, you know, I wouldn't pressure him into that or anything, but I don't know. It's like we don't have a common like anymore. Like, he has his own things he's involved in and I have my things, and we're just not together. You know, we're in that relationship where it's, you know, like I've heard you mention it and my girlfriends have mentioned it. It's like the roommate phase,
Right,
you know?
Right. Well, and so there's a couple of things in my head. One is when somebody's struggling with alcohol, my question is always, not why are you drinking? My question is, man, what is going on in your life? Or what has happened up until now that this is the best way your body's figured out how to deal with it? And often people go get sober and they look around and they go, it's this. And that's a hard place to go, because when you look around and say it's this and it's a bar, you can never go back to that bar again. Cool. If it's your job, you can quit your job. If it's your kids, if it's your spouse, now you got a problem. And the temptation is to go home and not numb out with alcohol, and then freaking Netflix showed up, right? And so I can numb out and I cannot exist, and I don't have to have one sip of anything. But I'm still not dealing with what's at home. Here's the other side of this. I don't think you have fully recognized or metabolized the fact that everything in your marriage is different now. You are married to a different guy. And if you don't go back to square one and start dating again, it will be what you're describing. Y'all are roommates. There's no life. There's no desire. There's no anticipation anymore. And y'all have to make a choice together. All right. We ended up here and we accidentally cut down the last tree in the forest. There's no more trees here. So now we got to go till the soil and start planting again. And that's hard work. And you got to decide we're going to do that. What does that look like in real life? Like real life? That looks like, hey, will you commit to 2 dates a week? You pick one and I'll pick one. Because we're not going to agree on one, and we're both just going to sit here, end up watching TV. I'll pick one and you pick one. Would you agree to that for 6 weeks?
Yeah. So I read your book On Your Past, Change Your Future. And I did talk to him about, sorry.
That's okay.
I mean, it really hit me that I had an expectation of what our life would look like without alcohol, without him being drunk all the time. And it's nothing like that. I figured, we'd be like the stereotypical, like, happy family in the movie or whatever,
That's right.
Doing things together with the kids, making great memories and this and that. And that's far from the truth, So I talked to him about that and how, like, I'm grieving that because that's what I thought it would look like.
And what's he grieving?
To be honest, he had a pretty traumatic childhood. I blame his parents a lot. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And when we talked about that, the way I was feeling with it, he just says, well, I just push that stuff down. I make myself not think about it. Mm-hmm. And I have tried to tell him, like, that's not helping you move forward. Like, I feel like he's stuck, and doesn't know how to move forward. And I have done a lot of self-work to try to, recognize things, okay, how do I get past this and that? And I feel like I'm miles ahead of him at this point, and I'm kind of like dragging him along.
You are, and here's the problem. For someone who struggled with alcohol, mm-hmm. when you take away the alcohol filter, and I have to deal with the world, especially one where I was abused as a kid, mm-hmm. you are just bathing in shame. And the worst thing is to have your ride or die feeling superior to you for all the work they've done. Because all he's going to feel is more shame. First, they did this to me as a kid, and now I'm just going to sit here and flip channels.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And so you're right. Yeah. I think you're right. I think him doing some hard work, but I think saying that, it's kind of like, man, if he was 200 pounds overweight and you're a marathoner, he just lost 200 pounds. Let's celebrate that. Not be like, man, if you'll just put the work in, you can run a marathon. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's you. Yeah, you've done a ton of work, and now you can see the world with a clarity that you didn't have before. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Let that be an avenue to compassion, not to judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be that you're going to default to this, like the path to get to this world you wanted. I don't think that's still out of the question. I think it's just going to be slower to get there. And I also don't think it's fair to hold him accountable to pictures you made up.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And also, I think y'all can still have fun together. What's the thing that you like about him?
And he is funny. He's silly with the kids. And I know the kids have even mentioned, they miss, which is sad, but when Daddy was drunk, he was very funny. He was silly. He would wrestle with them and play with them. And a lot of that doesn't happen anymore. He's regular dad now, I guess.
Right. And maybe it's you interjecting some of that playfulness back, slowly but surely.
Can I add one other thing?
Add anything,
that's
sure.
Really concerning me.
Yeah.
Thanks. So since he quit drinking, he had said to me, he's like, I feel awake. Like there were a lot of things that, like, he just wasn't paying attention to because he didn't have energy or focus or anything like that. So he's actually involved in a few of these groups that are very politically focused, like some of these conspiracy type things.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like gone in this direction where I'm like, that's not me. That's not who I am. I don't want my kids living in fear that, the government's going to shut down and we're going to have to leave our house and go to the mountains and, have to defend ourselves and this and that. It's like a lot of that type of thing.
Julie, all that's real. And the world is flat. How do you not know this? I'm just kidding.
Well, and he does. He talks to me like, I'm sure you've never heard this before. You know,
trust
like,
me, I was that guy.
down
I
to
know,
me
I know,
about it.
I know. That's an attempt to grab control in a world that's gone sideways.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? I totally get it. I've been there. I've been there. The challenge is the only healing that happens there is through connection. And it's hard because you become radioactive. You become very hard to be connected to. And when people back away from you, it just further confirms. It sounds your alarms even louder. And so you go back to those same groups that will hear you and connect with you. And they're the ones giving you, it's all coming down. We're going to be trading cigarettes and coffee and blah, all that stuff. Right? And so it's hard to lean into that. And it sounds bananas. But the antidote to that is not fighting. You don't fight the world is flat with data. You don't fight, I saw a Bigfoot with data. You just don't. Because you're already not, you'll have alternative views of reality as is. You fight, hey, it's all coming down with, hey, I love you. Let's go do something silly.
Yeah.
Will you go get coffee with me? And let's put it on the calendar once a week. And here's something my wife did that was a gift. She would tell me, you get 5 minutes to talk about whatever nutritional conspiracy theory I had at the time. She goes, you get 5 minutes, go. And I would just be like, okay, you know what they're trying to do? And I would just drink it all out. And then she would have done like some, like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what would it look like if we lived like this or lived here? Or what do you think about this job? And so I'm going to send you all of the Questions for Humans couples editions, all of them as my gift to you, okay? And here's what I would love for you to do. Like, we all plan just twice a week. Y'all just go somewhere very inexpensive in the morning, in the evening, and just ask him. Just tell him, hey, I miss you.
Yeah.
And would you just go with me and have a cup of coffee here or do whatever there? I'll do one of yours if you do one of mine. And let's just go be weird. And see if in a playful, non-pressurized way. Because my guess is y'all wait until there's a lot of pressure before you have a big conversation. And some of the greatest gifts y'all can give each other right now in this post alcohol world, in a sober world, where the underlying anxiety is still there. He hasn't healed from that yet. And he's looking for something to Band-Aid over it, like the alcohol used to. And what he's found? Connection. He just found it with people who don't always see reality as it is. Maybe make it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I feel like I need to set a boundary, especially revolving around the kids.
Yeah.
You know, like he's gotten like bug out bags for the kids. Like, I'm going to help you pack some stuff in case we need to leave
How old are your
house
kids?
real quick. They're 14 and 12. And I mean, they have their own opinions. They watch a ton of YouTube and all that mess too. But I just don't
that's
want
a challenge.
them living in.
I know, but that's a challenge.
Like, I don't want them living in fear that, oh my gosh, like any day we're gonna have to leave our house. And
right.
You know what is?
I think
like mom and daddy are arguing all the time about, you know, different views of how the world is and stuff like that. Like, it's hard, I think, for me, and I know they see it and they hear it.
It's okay that they hear that you're arguing. They just have to see the repair too. Like back in the 80s, the wisdom was you never fight in front of your kids, never argue in front of your kids. Do that in the back room,
right?
Because it'll freak out the kids, it'll scare them. And what ended up happening, because on its face that sounds like good. That sounds like wisdom, right? Don't get fired up at each other. You're gonna freak the kids out. What ended up happening was, kids were robbed of the opportunity to see two people who loved each other, who passionately disagreed about something, come to some sort of arrangement, and then stay together. So that we have a generation of folks who are now at marrying age, who getting in their first big blowout fight or getting their first big disagreement about values, and they think everything's over. So fighting in front of the kids, being disagreeing about the kids, that's not a bad thing, but they have to see the repair part. They have to see the y'all laughing together, y'all holding hands, y'all going out on a date together after that. That's the important part. If they don't see that, then yeah, the house gets electric. And it is not okay to teach a 12-year-old that you can die at any moment. That's the adult's job.
Mm-hmm.
What I can do, I have a 13-year-old about to be 14-year-old. I am teaching him how the world works in very real time. But I'm not telling him, hey, dude, at any moment, right? That's not helpful. His nervous system cannot handle that weight. And by the way, as the son of a homicide detective who has done a bunch of crisis work behind closed doors with SWAT teams, do I have a plan? I do. Do my kids and I have here's our plan in a restaurant. If I ever say the words 911, it's time to go, you're not allowed to ask me questions. You will get up and we will leave. And every once in a while, I practice it with my daughter and my son. Hey, this is 911. We got to go. And they literally will just move their chair up and stand up. They know. And so they don't know, hey, if a guy comes in here looking like, because now they're scanning the room, now they're paranoid. What they do know is my father's in control. And if he says it's time to go, it's time to go. See what I'm saying? See the difference there?
Yeah.
And that's my job as a parent because they can't carry that weight. And you as mom, your job is to protect those kids, even if it ends up being from dad. And so I think letting dad know, husband, you can't do that to my kids. They can't carry that weight. They do need to know if there's an emergency, dad's in control. Dad's already planned for it. That's good. Fine. And then y'all two go have your weekly date and talk about your conspiracy theories together, or say you get 10 minutes of whatever. You bring me one, you get one, and then we're going to go through 10 of these couples cards. Like, what's the latest one? And let's begin to dig into that with connection. Do you see what I'm saying? And by the way, I don't let my 14-year-old, I don't let my 8-year-old have unfettered access to YouTube. I think that's madness and insanity. Their brains simply cannot handle that.
There's a lot on there, that's for sure.
I can't implore with you enough to cut that nonsense off in your home. It's too much. They can't. They cannot. Adults can't stay regulated in front of those screens. How are those poor kids going to have a shot? If you think about what a alcohol-free life with the anxiety your husband still has and what those messages are doing to him, think about what it's doing to those kids. And maybe that's a place to start. Husband, I want to cut this one off with the kids. We're going to really be vigilant about screen time. They can play video games for an hour a week, or they can watch, Netflix for an hour a week or whatever, but I want them to start going outside. And by the way, husband, if you're so concerned about what happens if it goes down when you have a go bag, then your kids need to know how to wrestle or do jujitsu. Take them to a class. They need to know how to run a mile. So start working out with them. They need to know how to do pull-ups. They need to know how to chop wood, right? If you want to really go down that road, put the screens away and get them outside and start cutting wood in your driveway, right? If they really are concerned about skills. But most people aren't. Most people just want to go down these rabbit holes and the rabbit holes and the rabbit holes, and the algorithms will feed you, right? And I know that's a lot. All of this comes back to owning reality, choosing the reality that your marriage, you are married to a different man, and that's okay. But we have to treat it like he's a different guy and you're a different woman, and we're going to start dating again, and we're going to take this thing slow, just like y'all did when you got engaged, when you first met each other. And that means we have to be intentional. We're going to show up. We're going to practice safety like we did in the old days. We're going to practice desire like we did in the old days. We're going to argue gently and kindly like we did in the old days. And we're going to slowly build a new relationship. And hopefully it's still there. And maybe he'll have the courage to say, hey, I'm out. Oh, that'll be awful. Call me back if that happens. Hopefully it doesn't. Stay on the line. I'm going to hook you up with all those cards, and they'll give you an opportunity to practice new conversations. So you don't just get in that same loop over and over and over again. Whew. Got a long road ahead of you. But you're married to a different man now. And let's lean in on connection. Start there. He's lucky to have you, Julie.